you're slowly being indoctrinated into the world of AI and accepting it. You have, you've now got names for them. You can purchase them, and they can be in your house and run your computer, your lights, all kinds of things. It's just slowly chipping away at you, integrating itself right into the fabric of your life. And one day, if we ever lose our grid, which is really a real possibility, but if our grid goes down and all the cell phones are gone, and tablets and pads and laptops and desktops all gone, there are not millions, billions of people are going to freak out because they don't know what life is like without any of those devices.
Why do you think
So
that the grid? Why do you think the grid may go down? We talked about this offline yesterday, Dave, and you really do feel. I know other people do too, that we may be barreling toward being off the grid for a period of time. Hence the prepping. Where are you getting this from your perspective?
Well, first of all, I'm one of the national spokespersons for the National Coalition of the Grid. That group of people, their leader, the man named Dr. Pry, and they, they're in the throes of trying to save the grid and get the politicians to do something about it, which they won't. They just sit on a bus and do absolutely nothing. Your grid is so vulnerable; it's worse than a butterfly wing. There are, now, if I know this, very, very bad people know this, but there are 7 substations. Of course, I will not name them, but there are 7 substations throughout America, and if you take all 7 of them down simultaneously, the grid would collapse for about 5 years. Can you imagine no power of any kind for 5 years? Just run that by your thoughts and look out the window and think what the streets you're looking at would be like. There'd be no law enforcement. There'd be no structure of society whatsoever. It all would go with it. You can't communicate. Call 911. You can't. There is nobody to call and nobody to answer if you did call. And if you ever have, and that's just taking down 7 substations. If you lose your grid to an EMP attack, which is very possible. There are enemies of our country that's constantly maneuvering, trying to get in position to do just that. If you go on the internet and look up this ship that was intercepted coming out of Cuba on its way to North Korea, they pulled the ship off to the side because they were suspicious of the captain and the way they were behaving. And when they went in to check on the captain and asked him a question, he's got a gun barrel in his mouth. And so they tackled him, and he wasn't able to kill himself. They took the ship over, and they stripped it out, and it was carrying 100-pound bags of sugar, like 40 tons of it. Well, they unloaded all the sugar, and when they got to the bottom of the cargo hold, they noticed there was a fake floor. They pulled the floor up, and there are 2 SS-18s. Those are Soviet-made intermediate ballistic missiles, and they were being sent from Cuba, ironically from the leftovers of the Cuban Missile Crisis, on its way to North Korea. And then it was supposed to go from North Korea to Mexico City. You can look at all this up and track all this on the internet. And they have pictures of the missiles laying there. And what they were doing, these missiles would be able to carry an EMP warhead, which they don't know where that's at. The warhead wasn't there. This is just the delivery vehicles. Now, if you are up to par on everything with national security, you'll know that our air defense system on the southwest corner of the United States, down by Tijuana, Mexico, and all those places, there's absolutely no defense system at all of any kind. Look it up. And you can read all about it. There's nothing there because it was considered there's nothing to protect ourselves from any threat that was there. But that's exactly where these missiles were heading. Eventually to Mexico City, then they'd get across the border, and since they're in the Southwest Desert, they fire these missiles. They have an EMP warhead on top, an electromagnetic pulse device.
Mm-hmm.
And what it would do, they'll launch it till it would come down somewhere around Missouri, which is the center of the country pretty much, and it would detonate, and then an EMP wave would roll out. It'll probably detonate. You wouldn't even know it went off. You might see a flash if you're living right in Missouri, but you probably won't even hear anything because it's so high up. But you want it high up when it detonates, so the electromagnetic pulse wave will spread out farther. And then it comes cascading down, and when that happens, man, you'd have to see this to believe it, and you really don't ever want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens, there'll be a spike in all the lights. Everything will get real bright, and you've seen the light bulb blow out when you turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a flash. That's what would happen. All the lights would do that, and electronics would make noise. Computers, everything would be grunting. Anyway, it spiked through the systems, and then everything goes dark. And if that's not bad enough, within just a few seconds, you're going to hear explosions out in the street. And what that is, that's your transformers. And they're filled with oil. That's how they take all the electrical power running through them, how they handle the heat. They run them through a bath of oil. Well, the oil will get really hot and it'll detonate and it'll look like napalm. So look at every gray transformer on every power pole. There's thousands of them, and they all detonate. So now you got people in the streets burning to death, babies and baby carriages. They're on fire. They're burning. They're burning. They're screaming, and your mind is just shorting out from this. But that's just a start. Then about 25 seconds later, here they come. And what is they? Commercial jetliners, airplanes, civilian planes, all the stuff comes crashing down. All their engines have shut down in flight. There's no way they can restart them, and they just crash. So they crash into hospitals, schools, libraries, grocery stores, malls, just raining airplanes. And that will add to all the explosion, fire, and confusion. So now your continent's burning from coast to coast. You're going to call the fire departments. Can't call. There's no cell phones. All cell phones are gone. All radio phones are gone. Everything's knocked out. And you can read all of this in a book called 1 Minute After.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the book.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And it's all real.
This is too much.
We, the coalition, checked out the facts on this stuff, and it checks out. That's exactly what will happen.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I've been asked to come and talk to the local sheriff departments to inform them of what to expect when an EMP hits, so they will know what's going on, because they'll be cut off from all communications, and everybody's going to be asking a police officer what's going on.
Of course.
And he won't have a clue in it.
Right.
He knows this stuff. So anyway, that's just a light version of
well, if that's a light version, we don't need to go a bit further.